The interstellar embassy on Nova 9 was one of the strangest places in the galaxy. Inside its shining glass towers, humans and aliens from many species worked together to keep peace between worlds. Every corridor was bright and clean, filled with soft hums of machines and the quiet sound of different voices speaking in many languages. In one small room of the embassy lived a young alien girl named Lyra. She was from the Elendari race, a people known for their bright eyes that glowed softly like blue moons and for their strong minds that could share thoughts without words. Lyra was only 9 years old, but her mind was already more powerful than most adults of her kind. Still, she was not happy. Lyra suffered from terrible nightmares. Every night when she tried to sleep, dark shapes filled her dreams. She saw fire, noise, and shadows that made her cry out in fear. Her screams were not just sounds. They were waves of emotion that spread through the embassy. Other aliens could feel her fear inside their own minds. Some guards even had to wear special helmets to block it. The Elendari doctors tried everything to help her. They used healing lights, dream-soothing crystals, and mental songs to calm her spirit. Nothing worked. Every night the same thing happened. Lyra woke up shaking, eyes glowing with fear, her tiny hands gripping the blanket tight. The cause of her nightmares was unknown to most, but a few scientists believed it started after she accidentally tuned into a human war broadcast, a recording of battles long ago. The sounds of explosions and shouting had filled her mind, and since that day, she feared humans deeply. She thought of them as loud, violent creatures from a world full of storms. The embassy staff cared about her but didn't know what else to do. The Elendari ambassador ordered constant medical supervision. A group of guards stood outside her room each night. The walls were covered in soundproof panels, and dream-dampening machines were placed beside her bed. But still the nightmares continued. One quiet evening, after another failed attempt to calm Lyra, the staff left her room dimly lit. Outside, in the long hallways, the cleaning crew began their nightly work. Among them was Ben Miller, a human janitor in his 50s. He was tall but gentle, with gray hair and kind eyes. He wore an old uniform, pushed a cart full of cleaning tools, and hummed softly to himself while he worked. Ben had come to Nova 9 years ago, looking for a simple job far away from Earth's chaos. He didn't care for fame or rank. He just liked helping others, even in small ways. As he mopped the floor near Lyra's quarters, he heard a faint cry. Not a normal cry, but something that felt like it touched his heart. It was a sound full of fear and sadness, like a child trapped in a bad dream. He stopped working and listened again. The sound came from behind the reinforced glass of the observation room. Through the window, he saw her, a small alien girl curled up in bed, shaking. The lights in her room flickered with each wave of her psychic distress. 2 guards stood nearby, unsure what to do. Ben slowly approached them. "Hey," he said softly, "what's going on in there?" One of the guards looked annoyed. "Just the child again. She has those episodes." "Don't concern yourself, human. Go back to work," Ben frowned. "She sounds scared." "She's an Elendari," the guard replied. "Their minds are delicate. It's not your concern." But Ben didn't leave. He stood there for a moment, watching her. She looked so small, so lost. Her eyes flickered open, glowing faint blue in the dark. For a moment, their gazes met. Ben smiled a little and raised his hand in greeting. "Hey, kiddo," he said quietly through the glass. Lyra blinked in surprise. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Casually, kindly, without fear. Her people always treated her condition like a broken machine to fix, not a scared child to comfort. The guard sighed. "You'll scare her more." But Lyra didn't look scared. She tilted her head, studying the strange human on the other side of the glass. His mind felt calm, steady, like a warm light behind a door. Ben didn't know why, but he couldn't walk away. Maybe it reminded him of his own daughter years ago, who used to have nightmares after storms on Earth. He remembered how he used to sit beside her, reading stories until she fell asleep. He turned to the guards. "Do you mind if I stay for a bit? I'm not doing anything important right now. Maybe hearing a voice will help her calm down." The guards exchanged doubtful looks, but they were exhausted after many sleepless nights. Finally, one nodded. "Fine, just don't touch anything." Ben sat down on the floor beside the glass wall, leaning against his mop handle. He pulled out his small tablet, an old one filled with storybooks he liked to read during his breaks. He smiled at Lyra through the window. "Want to hear a story?" he asked gently. She didn't answer, but her eyes glowed a little brighter. That was enough for him. Ben opened the tablet and began reading. His voice was deep but warm, slow and peaceful. It echoed softly through the speaker connection in the wall. He told her a story about a small star who was afraid of the dark until she learned to shine on her own. As he read, Lyra's breathing slowed. The fear in her eyes faded. She lay back on her bed, her glowing eyelids fluttering closed. The dream-dampening machines hummed quietly, but for the first time in many nights her body relaxed completely. Ben kept reading, even when he thought she had fallen asleep. His voice carried through the quiet hall, filling the space with warmth. When the story ended, he looked through the glass again. Lyra was asleep, peaceful, silent, no trembling. One of the guards whispered, amazed, "She hasn't slept like that in weeks." Ben smiled softly. Sometimes all a kid needs is a story. He packed up his tablet, stood up slowly, and continued his cleaning rounds. But that night, as he pushed his cart down the empty corridor, he couldn't stop thinking about the little alien girl and how her nightmares had finally stopped. Not because of technology, but because of something as simple as a story told with kindness. In her room, Lyra dreamed for the first time of something bright. A soft voice, a gentle face, and the sound of words that made the darkness go away. The next morning, the embassy was buzzing with surprise. The Elendari doctors could not believe what they saw on their monitors. Lyra had slept peacefully through the night. Her dream activity, once full of chaos, was now calm and rhythmic. For the first time in months, there were no spikes of fear or waves of psychic distress. When the morning guards reported that a human janitor had helped her sleep, no one believed it at first. Some thought it was a joke. Others said it must have been luck. But when they checked the surveillance, they saw him, Ben Miller, sitting quietly by the glass, reading from his tablet. Ambassador Vethar, Lyra's guardian and one of the most respected Elendari in the embassy, called an emergency meeting. Around the oval table sat scientists, healers, and security officers. The air shimmered faintly from the telepathic energy of so many Elendari minds. "This human," said one of the doctors. His voice somehow stabilized the child's psychic resonance. "Our scans show her mind synchronized with the rhythm of his speech." Ambassador Vethar frowned. "He's a janitor. How could his simple words affect an Elendari mind?" The room fell silent. No one had an answer. Finally, the ambassador said, "Bring him here. I will speak with this Ben Miller myself." That evening, as Ben was cleaning the glass halls again, two guards approached him. "The ambassador requests your presence," one said. Ben blinked, surprised. "Me? Did I do something wrong?" "Not wrong," said the other guard, "but unusual." They led him into the council chamber, a vast room filled with glowing blue light and tall figures with shining eyes. Ben felt out of place, standing there in his old cleaning uniform, holding his cap nervously. Ambassador Vethar studied him. "Human," he said slowly, his voice echoing both aloud and in Ben's mind. "We have observed something strange. The child Lyra slept peacefully when you read to her. Tell us how you did this." Ben scratched his head. "I just read her a bedtime story. That's all." Vethar narrowed his eyes. "You did not use technology? No neural device, no translator field?" Ben shook his head. "Just my voice." The aliens murmured telepathically among themselves. To them it made no sense. But to Ben it was simple. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "a story can reach a place that machines can't." Vethar leaned back. He did not understand humans well, but something about this man's calmness felt real. "Very well," he said at last. "You may continue reading to her. For now." That night, Ben returned to the observation room. Lyra was waiting. Her small hands clutched the edge of her blanket. When she saw him, her glowing eyes brightened. "You came back," she whispered telepathically, her voice echoing faintly in his mind. Ben smiled. "Of course, kiddo. You ready for another story?" She nodded eagerly. He sat down again outside the glass wall, opened his tablet, and began to read. Tonight's story was about an Earth explorer who traveled to the stars not to conquer, but to understand. He read slowly, letting each word roll like waves. As he spoke, Lyra's eyes drifted shut. Her body relaxed. Her psychic aura, once trembling with fear, began to glow softly in rhythm with his voice. From the observation deck above, a group of Elandari scientists watched in awe. Their instruments recorded stable psychic patterns. For the first time, Lyra's mind showed signs of resonance, a rare state of mental harmony usually found only between Elandari family members. "How is this possible?" One whispered. "His emotional frequency," another answered. "It's comforting. Her telepathic field is copying his calmness." None of them could explain why. Humans were known for emotional chaos, yet somehow, this human's empathy reached across species. Over the next few nights, the pattern continued. Every time Ben read, Lyra slept soundly. When he wasn't there, she woke crying. The guards, seeing the difference, started letting him stay longer. During the day, Lyra would wait near the window, hoping to see him passing by. When he noticed her, he'd wave with a smile, and she would giggle softly, something she hadn't done in months. Soon, the whole embassy knew about the human janitor and the alien child. Some thought it was touching. Others thought it was strange. One Elandari scientist, however, didn't like it at all. His name was Dr. Revan, and he believed humans were too emotional, too unstable to be near Elandari children. "This is dangerous," he warned the ambassador. "If her mind merges too deeply with his, she may lose her Elandari balance. She must be kept away." Ambassador Vethar hesitated. The rules said human interference in Elandari mental matters was forbidden. But the results were undeniable. Lyra was finally at peace. Still, pressure grew from the Elandari Council back home. They sent a message: separate the child from the human immediately. That night, when Ben came with his tablet, the guards stopped him. "Sorry," one said quietly. "Orders from above. You can't enter the observation area anymore." Ben looked disappointed. She was finally sleeping fine. The guard looked away. "It's not up to us," Ben sighed. "All right," he gave a tired smile. "Tell her I said goodnight, okay?" Inside the room, Lyra waited. Hours passed, but Ben never came. Her small hands trembled. She tried to reach out telepathically, but there was no warm voice on the other side. Then the nightmares returned. The walls shook with psychic energy. Lights flickered. The dream-dampening field overloaded. Guards rushed in as Lyra screamed, not just in fear but in heartbreak. Her telepathic wave hit the hallway like a shock. Machines short-circuited. The ambassador himself felt the storm of emotion in his mind. Confusion, sadness, loneliness. It was all coming from her. "Get the human," he shouted. "Now!" Minutes later, Ben ran into the observation area, tablet in hand. "Lyra!" he called out. She looked up, tears glowing like tiny stars. Her mind reached out to his instantly, her thoughts trembling. "Why did you leave me?" Ben stepped closer to the glass. "I didn't want to, kiddo. They told me I couldn't come." He took a deep breath, opened his tablet again, and began to read through the speaker. His voice filled the room, steady and soft, like sunlight after a storm. Little by little, the light in the room calmed. The trembling stopped. Lyra's breathing slowed. When the story ended, she whispered telepathically, "Your words chase away the monsters." Ben smiled gently. "Then I'll keep reading till they're all gone." After that night, no one dared stop him. Even Ambassador Vethar stood outside quietly, listening to the human's voice echo through the glass walls. He began to realize something. It wasn't just the stories that mattered. It was how Ben spoke them. Each word carried warmth, patience, and the kind of kindness no Elandari technology could create. The child's psychic health improved rapidly. Her eyes no longer flickered with fear. She even began to draw pictures of Earth landscapes she imagined from Ben's stories. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of humans anymore. And somewhere deep inside her glowing heart, she began to think of Ben not as a stranger, but as a friend. Weeks passed on the interstellar embassy of Nova 9, and something beautiful began to happen. Lyra no longer woke up screaming. Her dreams were calm and colorful. The Elandari doctors who once called her a psychic risk now called her a miracle. Every night the same routine continued. After finishing his cleaning rounds, Ben Miller, the human janitor, would sit by the glass and open his old tablet. Lyra would wait for him, sitting cross-legged on her bed, eyes glowing softly. And when he started reading, the room would fill with peace. Sometimes he read stories about Earth, about forests, oceans, and children who dreamed of stars. Other times he read stories about courage, friendship, and kindness. Lyra loved them all. Her favorite was about a small star who was afraid to shine until she realized her light could guide lost travelers home. One evening, when Ben finished reading, Lyra looked at him and said softly through her telepathic link, "Ben, your stories feel like light," he chuckled. "Well, that's what good stories do, kiddo. They help you see the world a little brighter." But the truth was, his words had done more than that. Scientists at the embassy had been secretly studying the connection between Ben and Lyra. The readings showed that her mind synchronized with his emotional rhythm whenever he read. Her brain waves followed the pattern of his voice. It was something no machine could replicate. To the Elendari, this discovery was shocking. They had always believed emotions were weaknesses. Yet, a simple human's emotion had cured a psychic illness that their best technology could not. Ambassador Vethar called another meeting. "We cannot ignore this," he said. "Human empathy has achieved what our science could not. We must understand it." Dr. Revan, still doubtful, argued, "It's dangerous. The child's mind could become human-like. She is Elendari." But Vethar shook his head. "No, she is healing. And if compassion is the reason, then perhaps we should learn from it, not fear it." A few days later, the Elendari High Council on their homeworld heard about the case. They ordered Ben to appear before them. When the message reached him, Ben was both nervous and confused. "I'm just a janitor," he said, scratching his head. Vethar smiled slightly. "You are more than that now, Mr. Miller. You are a bridge between two species." The next week, Ben stood in a great chamber filled with glowing light and floating Elendari elders. They looked at him with curiosity and respect. Lyra sat beside the council, her small hands folded on her lap, her eyes bright with pride. One elder spoke, her voice calm but powerful. "Human, you have done something no Elendari could. Tell us, what is your method?" Ben took a breath. He didn't have fancy words or big ideas. He just spoke from the heart. "I don't have a method," he said slowly. "Where I come from, when someone's scared, you don't give them a machine. You give them a story. You sit beside them and you make them feel they're not alone." That's all I did. The elders exchanged thoughtful looks. For beings who lived by logic and mental discipline, his words were simple, but they carried truth that touched even their telepathic hearts. Lyra stood up and said softly, "He gave me dreams that don't hurt anymore. He gave me peace." The council chamber fell silent. The elder nodded. "Then perhaps it is time we learn from humanity what peace truly means." After the meeting, the story of Ben and Lyra spread across the galaxy. News networks called him the storyteller of Nova 9. Across many colonies, programs were started where humans read to young alien children, helping them overcome fear, trauma, and loneliness. The Elendari scientists began new research projects called the Resonance Program to study how emotions, words, and compassion could heal the mind better than energy or drugs. Ben didn't think of himself as a hero. He kept working, mopping the shiny embassy floors, fixing lights, and telling stories every night. But people treated him differently now. Whenever he walked through the halls, aliens nodded respectfully. Some even asked him to teach them how to tell stories. Lyra, meanwhile, began to grow stronger. Her psychic abilities improved, but now they were guided by calmness instead of fear. She started to write her own tales, stories inspired by Ben's readings. Her first book was titled The Janitor and the Stars. One evening, she gave him a copy, hand-drawn and decorated with tiny silver lines. "This is for you," she said softly. "It's about a human who helped a lost star find her light." Ben smiled, touched. "You're becoming quite the storyteller yourself." Lyra looked proud. "You taught me that stories can heal hearts." Time passed, and soon it was time for Ben to leave Nova 9. His contract with the embassy was ending. He packed his few belongings, mostly his cleaning tools and the little tablet full of stories. When Lyra heard he was leaving, she hurried to the shuttle bay. Her small figure stood among tall guards, clutching something glowing in her hands. "Ben," she said in her gentle telepathic tone, "I made this for you." She handed him a small crystal, glowing faint blue. "It carries one of my dreams," she explained. "A dream where no child is afraid of the dark." Ben's eyes softened. "Thank you, kiddo. That's the best gift I've ever gotten." He placed a hand on the glass between them, and she pressed her hand against the same spot on the other side. For a moment their eyes met, human brown and Elindari blue, and both glowed faintly with shared emotion. "When I sleep now," she said softly, "I dream of your stories, not the monsters." Ben nodded. "Then I did my job right." As his ship lifted off, Lyra stood by the window, watching the engines fade into the starlight. For the first time in her life, she wasn't scared of the night sky. She knew somewhere out there, a human was reading another story to someone who needed it. Months later, her storybook reached Earth. Children there loved it. And across the stars, alien parents began reading bedtime stories to their children, the same way humans did for centuries. Because of one human janitor, the galaxy had learned something priceless, that words could heal more than machines, that kindness was stronger than fear, and that even the smallest human act, reading a story, could change a world. In time, Lyra grew up to become an ambassador herself. Whenever she met human visitors, she would smile and say, "You remind me of the man who taught me to dream." And somewhere deep in her heart, she always carried the memory of that simple janitor whose gentle voice turned nightmares into hope, proving once again that humanity's greatest strength was not its power, but its compassion.